This is the Heroes Podcast. I'm so happy to be back, and I've got Vincent Hazenboom here. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
Well, I'm fantastic. And before we go into this interview, I want everyone to know who I'm going to introduce today and whose story we're going to have. And I want to intro you. Vincent Hazenboom is a Dutch thought leader and podcaster on purposeful living in the emerging movement of new masculine leaders. Taking vulnerability to a superhero level, he shares his ongoing journey navigating porn addiction recovery, finding soulful connection, even as a highly sensitive person. An introvert in an increasingly confusing dating world, Vincent and his guests teach listeners to reconnect to themselves, return to a balanced masculine feminine energy, and empower others through their own heart centered personal relationship. Welcome on the show. Vincent,
Thank
do
you.
you want to tell us the beginnings? Because normally there is a story behind a Bible, right? Did you have some
Yeah.
struggles, right? Do you want to tell us what's been the worst of it?
Yeah, I had many struggles in my life, and my biggest struggle was really the porn addiction. I struggled at from a really young age until the age of 16, until the age of 30, 37. And I couldn't let go of it. I was always coming back to it, even though I told myself like, hey, I'm done with porn. I don't want to go to it anymore. I don't want to see it anymore. I know how damaging it is to myself. But I kept on going back over and over again, and it took the majority of my life because I didn't have a dating life. I didn't have any sexual relationship with women. It was always coming back to the pornography, and it was so difficult to get out of. And then I learned about how it's got related and connected to myself and my traumas, and to learn about that was really difficult because I thought there was nothing wrong with me and everybody has this problem. But then I got deeper and deeper and deeper in my traumas, and it's like, okay, there is really something wrong with me. I have unresolved traumas, and it took me years for me to discover that my traumas was running the show and not me. So that was the most difficult journey or the part that I had to go in my life to was the porn addiction.
Do you want to tell us what specifically it is, as long as you are comfortable to share? Because you're talking about trauma, but so what did you discover that was kind of controlling you going back to this, well, let's say not the best type of addiction?
It was really starting in my childhood. The connections that I had with other people and my parents was difficult, and I learned from there that it resolved into a trauma. And I started at a young age, so I couldn't do anything about it, and I couldn't change it because it was a program into my system. So that's what I've discovered with also with help with the psychologist and the EMDR, that once I resolved the trauma, everything changed for me. I felt better. I felt relaxed. I'm smiling more. I can now talk to women easily. Before that, I was just freezing up to the ground. I couldn't even say hi. My body was just like scaring off, and I just wanted to run away, just fleeing. But now, with the help with the psychologist and EMDR, I knew that was the core. That was the core problem of my problems to live my life because of the traumas. It was always keeping into circles. It was always running its course, and always those triggers, those intense triggers that I felt every single time. And I asked myself, why why can I not, why can't I not change that? Because my mindset was spot on, because I knew that I can talk to him and I knew I can do the things that I want to do, but my body, it was always doing its thing. It was always freezing up. It was always just telling my in my head like, don't do it, run away, it's not safe. And I couldn't make the connection between my head and my body. But now I learned that it's both, because I was always listening to that voice like, no, don't do it, always the monkey mind just talking blah, blah, blah. But now I know, like, hey, I can shut it off. I don't have to listen to that voice, and now I'm acting more from the body, the mind, the heart. It's all more now aligned together. So that was for me the biggest learning was really the trauma. The trauma was taking over my life.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. I do trauma work pretty much daily, and I see how the mind is able to lock itself into a loop
Yeah,
and then reapply the same, let's say, disempowering worst solution, because at one point in the past, people were not able to have a better strategy, and unfortunately, then it turns into repetition. Now, I was wondering, what were the specific triggers? Were these, because maybe someone listening now could, you know, uh, find out some of these triggers and what's going to happen and keeps happening to them as well. The triggers were women, or was there a specific visual, or what was switching the addiction on? Do you want to tell us?
yeah. What I always felt was with women. That was the biggest part that I always felt the triggers from women, but also in a difficult situation when there was conflict. I wouldn't resolve the conflict. I would make excuses. I would run around the bush, not to talk to this person like, hey, I don't feel right about this. Let's talk about it. I was running away. I was making it so hard on myself that I was just digging a grave for myself, and I was just upsetting people. I was just fighting with people. But I knew that I had to be honest at the beginning, like, hey, this is I need to tell you this because this is important. I feel it in my heart that I need to tell you, but in my mind was like, no, don't do it. It's run, run, run. I was always in this freezing mode and I was in this flight mode. But the majority of this feeling was always the freezing mode, and it was always with women, and that was the core trauma that was running in my body. And I just uh, I, a lot of men can relate to that. When they see a beautiful woman, they freeze up, and it's usually because of not feeling enough. I struggled with that for a long, long time. When I saw myself in the mirror, I wasn't feeling enough. I thought I wasn't good enough for women to have a relationship. I always talk myself down like I'm not good enough. I cannot be with this woman. She's too. I always put them on a pedestal, and it's also like a defense mechanism for myself because if I avoid her, then I don't have any conflicts. Then I don't have any traumas or relationship problems. Instead of talking it, I would run away. So I would avoid situations just not to deal with it. But I removed the experience from myself to learn and grow from it as well. So the majority of my life I was avoiding because I didn't want to feel. I always felt the pain. I always felt sad. And again, it was connected to the trauma.
Yeah, I hear you. And what I hear is that you probably lost yourself somewhere in
Yeah,
happened in the past. And obviously from that point you kind of lived from the past identity who was hurt. And
yeah,
and this is very classical that you say that avoiding conflict, and this
yeah,
is a big one for many people, and I always say that conflict could be the best thing for
yeah,
finding out the truth and really build and evolve relationships, whereas it could really turn people off. And yes, addiction is definitely a wonderful avoidance that could switch on at that time. And so tell me what, because you said it was a long time. You said something more than 15 years. Then at the end of this 15, 20 years, you obviously you tried to resolve this, but what has stopped you? Did you not find proper help? Or were there any therapists that tried to help you? And then you mentioned, I think, in EMDR and psychologist,
hmm
that Do you want to give us, like, it took a long time. How come?
I spent the majority of my life in fear, and I was also addicted to video games. And once I got so deep into it, it was my safe zone. It was my escape. It was safe for me to stay behind my computer. I didn't have to take any risk. I don't have to have any things that make me uncomfortable. So it was safe. But eventually, I was sitting behind my computer playing video games, and then from my higher self, they gave me the message like, "Hey, you need to make a change. You need to stop." I was like, "What?" So I put my controller down. I was like, "Okay, this feeling is so vivid. I need to do something." I wasn't doubting it. I wasn't questioning it. I knew I needed to get help. So the next couple of days, I talked to my parents and I told them like, "Hey, I need to get help because this is not okay. I cannot spend my entire life watching movies and video games. This is no life." So then I went to see the doctor and explained my situation. And then he sent me to a group therapy. But before I went there, I went to see a therapist, and I explained her my situation as too. And she said, "What can you tell me about yourself?" And I told like, "I can't." I just started to cry, and I told like, "I can't because I have no life. I'm not doing anything with my life. I'm just dying behind my computer." And she told me, "Well, Vincent, don't worry, I'm sent you to the right people." But the good thing is, what I want to add is luckily she never put me on meds, because I heard so many people that go on antidepressive medication and they don't get out of it. They're addicted to it, and that was my save. I really dodged the bullet there, and I'm really grateful for her that she never gave me that. And I moved on to the group therapy, and there everything started to change. I started to learn about myself and the backpack that I was carrying with my traumas, with my limiting belief, with my pain, sadness, everything that was there. I learned to understand it better. And from there, I get into self-development, and there everything changed for me because I started to read books, I started to learn courses, get coaching, and it's like there's more out there than I believed it to be, and there everything just started to change for me. But my downfall was I got into the self-development trap, and I wanted to learn as much as I can, read so many books, get so many courses, get so many coaching to build a massive wall around myself so I don't get hurt. And I stayed there also for years and years and years and years until I learned like I also need to experience. I also need to learn to, yeah, get uncomfortable. And I had this massive desire to have, yeah, a dating life. So from there, after my therapy, I started to get into the dating industry and about pickup and all of that. But that wasn't really me. I didn't feel connected to it. It wasn't real. I was learning from a script. I was doing techniques, and it wasn't really, yeah, what I felt was true.
I just wanted to ask one thing. You mentioned you couldn't talk about it. And the question arises for me, was that shame? That's one of the questions,
Yeah.
that was that shame? And secondly, from the decision, you probably made a decision that, I need to fix this, I need to change myself. Then
Yeah.
how long would it take from there to come through it and resolve it?
hmm Well, the first thing, what was the question again? What the first one?
Was it shame when you could not even?
Yeah, I had a massive shame problem. I felt so ashamed of who I am that I didn't feel worthy of who I am or who I was. For example, if I was in a store, I let people walk over me. When they push the car in front of me, I wouldn't say, "Hey, stop, it's my turn." I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel valuable enough. So I let people walk over me. So there was a lot of shame that I had to deal with as well. But over the years that I went through this process and go to back into myself and heal those shaped places, those things that we don't want to see, I learned to expose that, put light on it, and then I started to heal them slowly and not rushing it to sleep with a lot of women or drinking or whatever just to numb myself. I just took the time to myself, like, how can I heal myself? So that's what I did first. I took those small steps to learn to heal myself first until I moved to the next step.
And so let me give you back, because I'm so keen to understand how long would it take. So you decided to seek help, probably
Hmm.
therapist group.
Yeah.
How long did it take to actually, let's say, release and change yourself?
Yeah, like I mentioned, when I did the therapy, I felt an understanding and clearing, but I was again building a wall around myself. So I wasn't healing anything. I was just hiding myself behind books and behind courses, just not to take any risk. For example, first I'm gonna read this book, then I'm gonna talk to this girl. First I'm gonna read these books about business, and then I'm gonna take action in starting my business. So I made these excuses to avoid it. So I wasn't healing anything. I was just hiding and tell myself like, oh yeah, I read this book and now I know everything. But I didn't. It was just a cover up, just a mask that I was wearing just to get myself out of there. So that's what I was doing. And then after that I started like, hey, I'm having this repeat. I have this this CD record. It's just playing over and over again. But I didn't do anything. I didn't take any action. So that was the biggest problem that I had. I didn't take any action. I took action, but I was just numbing myself or just not doing anything. So I was always putting myself in the safe zone.
That's such an insightful share, because what a trap sometimes, and I talk about this a lot, that experiences change one's lives, not knowledge. And that's why books are a wonderful way to
Yeah.
take on another avoidance pattern, rather than exposure therapy, when you are able to put yourself into environments where finally you can test yourself in
Yeah.
truth. So what has happened when you started to turn this around into, I don't know, a message, or serving others? How did it happen?
It started last year about the understanding of my journey because I knew everything that happened to me, everything happens for a reason. So I learned a lot about myself, but also the world and how evil it is and how evil and destructive they want to keep humanity in. So I felt the need, the calling that I need to make the change. I have spent many, many years, like I said, reading books, learning as much as I can, and I want to share that with the world because people, it's maybe a bit hard to say, but people are lazy. People don't want to take care of themselves. People don't want to educate themselves anymore. They rather watch Netflix and complain about their lives than just get out of the couch and say like, I want to make a change. I want to do something about it. But we're just putting in sleep. We're just putting the responsibility to governments, to other people, and we need to take the responsibilities to ourselves and like, hey, it's up to us. It's up to me to make the change. So that's what I clicked like, hey, everything that I do, everything that I've learned, everything that I'm learning now, I want to give it to people so they can make the change. Because when I was younger, I had nobody. I had nobody that could tell me in my ear, like, hey, when I listen to a podcast, like, oh, try this, or heal the trauma first, or take care of your inner child, or stop playing video games, or whatever it is. I didn't have that. And now it's the time that we have this technology, we have this abundance of information because it's all in our phone or podcast, or when everybody's like watching this podcast, you can get so much value out of it and you can start making a change in your life. And that's what I felt that I wanted to do because I would be really selfish if I took it all for myself and make this extraordinary life when I can give it to somebody else and they can do the same. They can learn and grow and they can also do the same for other people. So that's also my mission, for me to help men to achieve, like, again, reconnect to the heart and live an authentic masculine and feminine balanced life, but also lead other men to do the same. So that came from, also from my higher self, like, yeah, I need to do that. I need to make the change and do it and teach other people to do the same.
So, what are you doing? How are you helping people? Is it more so one-on-one? People just reach out to you and they have a chat. How can people find you, and what type of person are your client? Who are you serving?
I'm serving men that want to help and recreate their lives from an authentic perspective, from their authentic selves, but also live from the heart. Because usually we're gonna go in the head. When we want to do something, first we're gonna go to into our head and say, like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not good enough. Good enough. This is too difficult. But your heart will tell you different. Your heart will tell you, like, no, I want to do this. This is important to me. So I want to help men to do that, from actually really authentically living from the heart. And to be honest, I'm not really into coaching yet. I'm not having a coaching business. I'm just podcasting. I just started. Today I launched my podcast, so it's really, really exciting. But thank you. But I really want to help men to do the same, and maybe I gonna create masterminds or those things that I can help them. And that's for me is the most beautiful thing to see, for men to actually say and come up to you like, Vincent, thank you so much, because of your message you helped me, or this training you helped me, or you helped my friend, or a mother or father, they come to me, is like, well, I'm so happy that you talk about the porn addiction, because now I understand how my son struggles with porn. So it's not only men, it's also women that struggle with it as well, but it's being shut down. So I want to be exposing it. I want to open it up. And yeah, that's really my goal and desire. And how they can follow me, they can follow me in all social medias. Like I said, I launched my own podcast. Gonna have my website next year, so you can check out all this cool stuff that I have. And yeah, it what I see with coaching, with usually with coaching, is about this. It's about the money, making a profit. But I don't care about the profit. I really care about helping men, because I've seen them struggle. I saw myself struggle when I was younger, and I didn't have those opportunities with that I can reach to other men right now. So that's my goal, to help them as much as I can.
That's wonderful, and each chooses their own tools. I almost said weapons, but there's so many ways to change
Yeah,
people's mindset, and I believe you are at the right space at the right time. And I was looking at at statistics, and there are not many proper podcasts out there where there is consistency, there is constant new episodes. There is quite a few who are
yeah.
taking this seriously, and I'm not saying I don't expect you or me to have the highest quality, but
Exactly.
the message, hopefully when you put it out there, I would say, and tell me if I'm wrong, is going to find the right people who are probably ready, and obviously they need to know that they are not alone
Hmm.
and there is hope.
Exactly. And that's the most important thing, having hope. Because I also did a lot of research about men, especially teenagers, and what I've discovered is they are looking for somebody to talk to, because they feel alone, they feel shut down, they cannot talk about their emotions, because as a man you need to be tough, as a man you're not allowed to cry. But hey, we're human beings, also men cry, also men deal with emotions. But this society is always based on tough men, and that was for me like, this we cannot do this anymore. We cannot put men in such a position, or younger men in this position, that they need to choose to be masculine. And I've read a story, and it really touched my heart. There was a young boy, and he was really into painting. It was really beautiful painting. He was an actually beautiful painter. And his father said something about that he didn't like the painting. That's not for guys, or he was weak or something like that. And he never painted again just because of those words. And we will never see his work, never again. And that comes from Brene Brown. That was my inspiration, that told me this story, or told the story. I was like, man, this is not okay. There's so much talent. There's so much like us men that have a story to tell, or they have desires or dreams, but they're so afraid of sharing it because they are fearful that they're gonna be shut down or look strange at. So I want to make the change. I'm really an open book. I can be really expressive, but I'm not telling men to do that. I'm telling men to open up and start to learn to live from the heart, and share what they feel and share what they're dealing with. If they have a breakup, they lock themselves up. They're gonna go behind their computer or watch porn. No, we need to talk about those things. We need to share. That's so important. Like you said, we have to talk about it.
Wow, that's really deep,
Yeah, it
and
is.
you're so spot on with that insight. That in Australia they say toughen up and
Exactly.
get on with it. And what happens then, I believe, then men put on a mask, so they will
Exactly.
not be real anymore. They give up themselves, and then they play the macho. They are not able, and this is the biggest one I found, is that at that point when they are pushed out of being themselves, then they can't even, and that was me, they can't even ask for help.
Yeah,
And
it's
that,
the shame. The shame will come up, and they will, and you're ashamed to ask for help. And that's what you asked me before, like, why did it took it so long? I was ashamed and afraid to ask for help. So that's my biggest thing that I want to say for the people who are listening. If you struggle with something, or you're afraid or ashamed to talk about it, please get help, because it can change your life. It's not something that you have to be toughened up or strong about. It takes more courage to reach out and ask for help and say, like, I need your help because I cannot do this alone, because I did everything on my own, because I thought if I can fix it by myself, I am the man. I got this, but I couldn't. And I needed to put my axe down, my swords, my shield, everything, and say, like, I need to see this psychologist. I need to get help. So please, if you're listening to this, if you're a man or woman, it doesn't matter, get help, because it can change your life. Like I told Andre, I went to see a psychologist. I did the EMDR, and it changed my life forever. I just, that is the biggest gift that I gave to myself, to get help. So that's my biggest, yeah, thing that I want to say. Please get help.
well, Vincent, thanks very much. I absolutely applaud that. I believe that these days, if you're listening to us and you are feeling down, you're not able to express yourself,
Hmm.
there is all kinds of therapists, coaches, and psychologists around, probably hundreds and hundreds of them.
Yeah.
And what I could maybe help you with is, and this is, tell me what's your, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I see now. There is so much knowledge, there's amazing tools out there to resolve whatever happened in the past, and however one is limited. But I think the market, and I'm talking about personal development market or therapy market, is at times, let's say, diluted, where people did not receive a breakthrough. So if you are walking around and looking for help, just, you will feel it inside when you meet with someone who is real. They your mask will drop. Maybe there will be some tears, but probably that's the place for you to stay. And even then, I would say, do your best to check if it's working. I tend to find people who's been going for years, some kind of therapies, and they realize they wasted thousands and thousands of dollars, and they are pretty much treading water. Nothing has changed in their life. So be serious, you do your due diligence, and ask for help, qualified help, or at least look at the results of people you're going to. Would you
Yeah.
say it's a serious one to consider?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I've been doing my entire life, just looking for the right tool or looking for the right coach. But the truth is, your inner coach is here. You will find the guidance within. You will know what you need because I can tell you get EMDR, but maybe if you use Reiki is helping or energy work is going to help you. I cannot tell you what you need to do, but you have to learn to listen to the inner compass because I knew when I needed help was I couldn't talk to women and I said enough. This is not okay. I cannot spend years and years of my life figuring it out how to do it by myself. So I tell my mom like, hey, I'm looking for somebody, and she knew someone, and she introduced me to him, and it changed everything for me. And I didn't even search for it, so it can also come to you, but we have to be open to it. And there's a lot of coaches that have like beautiful words, but they don't deliver. So once you feel that, like something is off, you will get those red flags. You know something is off. Say like, okay, this is not gonna work. I feel something is wrong, and don't get caught on with nice talks and excuses and big programs that can change your life in a couple of weeks. No, it takes time, and you need to filter out the right coach. And don't, like I said, don't get swept away with their nice words because I had it too. That coaches talk to me, it's like, wow, yeah, I want to do this, and then the next couple of days, like, it didn't feel right. But I got so in emotion, I was carried away so fast that I just did it, and later I regret it. So just go back to yourself. That's what I tell people. Go inwards. Ask yourself, what do I need? And you get those answers. Like maybe I should talk to a coach or Andre or me or see a psychologist or someone else or whatever is working for you. Because I had trial and error. I went to coaches, I went to psychologists, I went to therapists. I did the Wim Hof method with the ice breathing or the ice the cold exposure, and it helped me a lot. But it wasn't helping me as much as I thought. It's a good tool. It's good to have for the benefit of your health. But my traumas were so deep that I had to seek a psychologist. So I did many things that helping me. And like what Andre said, I have now many tools to my to use because I tried many things. But I found out that again I had to go deep into the roots of the core trauma, and that's how the psychologist and the EMDR and also with some voodoo, if I can say it like that. I will share that in an episode, but that's changed for me everything. So you have to search deep within you what is important to you, how it's going to help you.
Wonderful. And probably I just have one tiny thing to add, and I believe this is absolutely the key to, and I'm probably very unconventional because like I even tell people, challenge
Yeah,
whether they actually give you a kind of guarantee, money back if you don't get what you are here for. Because you won't find many who are comfortable with spending time with you on the premise of, well, if it's not working, then I'm not worth the money. Because this is the way I operate now for years. And I believe there is more and more clarity around who is delivering results, who is not, because I think now there's more and more reviews. So I think always look at who you are going to and check out those results. But there is one thing I believe you can't get around. No matter who you are going to, what kind of therapies, that's why I have another filter is are you really ready to change? Are you committed to be able to shift this? Have you had enough of your old self? And I know it's at times enough pain or enough
Yeah.
struggle, sometimes years of not getting what you wanted. That's the ripe kind of person for me to shift rapidly. But if these two things in place, you've got decided to change, you have the right person for the job, there is the solution right there for you. What would you say?
What I would say is if the person resonates with you, if you feel good with this person, you should do it. Because if it doesn't feel good, you shouldn't do it. Like I said, your heart will tell you, your inner compass will tell you, like, is this gonna help me? Yes or no? And you will get the answer. And like Andre says, it's like there's so many coaches out there, there's so many people, but you have to find somebody that resonates with you, that you feel good with it. And maybe in the beginning you don't feel good, and maybe later in the stage it will, but don't give up right away. Just give it some time, because sometimes people can surprise you. So that was for me my biggest learning, to also have trust in myself and in other people that they can help you, because we want to be brave and say like, no, I don't need help, but it's also good to open up and say like, I need help, because we need it, and it's okay. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing wrong with it to ask for help. But we are so closed off. We're so afraid to ask help, because then we're seen as weak. We're not weak. We're really really strong and brave to ask for help. So that's my biggest advice that I can give, to really listen within and feel what resonates for you, and then do it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very insightful. Um, I'm wondering though, some people are, and that was me, definitely. I was so disconnected from myself. I was so
Yeah.
much in my head. I could not read anything from the heart. I was lost. And that's when, yeah, it's really difficult to find intuition or the heart to tell you what's happening. And I think then it really helps when someone is actually breaking through your shell and
Mm-hmm.
finally you could open up. That's a sign. Someone made you so safe that you'll be able to share some of what was going on. There is an opportunity to get that person help you on your journey. So how can we find you? How can we reach out to someone's what was the podcast name? Or how do we find it? It will be all under the video, but if you want to share it, tell us.
Yeah, it's again, I haven't really fully introduced myself, but I'm Vincent Hazenboom. I'm 37 years old. I live in the Netherlands, and yeah, my show is called How to Heart. And if I may, I like to share this story because it's really funny. I uh I uh I was with my coach, and we talked about the name, because I was struggling about the name, like how can I get the name? And then she mentioned like, hey, what can you tell me in Dutch? So I was like, well, I don't know. And then I said, the Gouden Heart in Dutch. And in English, it's the Golden Heart. And she's like, what? How to heart? Like, yeah, this is the name. So again, in these small things, in these interactions, something can born out of it. So I wanted to share this story, because out of an interaction something can be born. Maybe you to talk somebody and talk to with somebody about your problems or your struggles, and you say like, "Oh, I had that too. You should talk to this person." Or I tried this yoga class and it changed everything for me. Or I did the supplement and I feel so much better. So don't close yourself off and want to do it alone. Also talk to people about your things that you're going through, because it can help you. It can create new opportunities for you to try out. So that was for me so cool, because I was struggling with the name for for months, and then this happened, and I checked with my heart, is this it? Yeah, this is it. So I kept to it, and that's how it's called now, the How to Heart.
Beautiful. And I really love some call them coincidences, but obviously coinciding is the perfect alignment to
Yeah.
know, for things to happen. Tell me, what have I not asked and you maybe wanted to share on this interview before we say goodbye? I would love to have this conversation for the next few hours, but
Yeah. The thing that I want to add is where they can follow me is on all the social medias. If you check my name, Vincent Hazenboom, you can find me everywhere. And well, I have a question for you. What is it? Why is it for you so important to help the people that are struggling? What is so important for you to people to get out of the trauma or the situation that they are in, for them to move forward in life? Like you said, I really like what you said about acknowledge it's there, acknowledge the pain, acknowledge the fear, acknowledge you are disconnected from yourself. So what is it for you that you wanted to make the change?
you're asking me, yeah?
I'm asking you, yeah.
Well, it's been, probably I'll expand on this. It's been 34 years for me, feeling not good enough, off my purpose, not knowing who I am and what I'm here for. And the end of that 34 years was at the point of hating myself, health collapsing. I almost lost my wife and children. So I think a maximum amount of pain and almost a full collapse of my life, losing my family, losing my marriage, has put me on the spot to finally make a decision to transform myself and sort of become someone who lives a meaningful life. That was my turnaround point. And I wish, if you're listening to this podcast, don't wait that long before
No.
your whole life is collapsing and you have no choice left.
Yeah. That's what I want to add. My biggest regret, I'm not regretting it, but if I say it in that term, my biggest regret was waiting too long for help. Like you asked me, like why did it took so long? It was fear, it was shame, it was the limiting belief that I had. But it's all a lie. It's not real. And I could take action faster. I could change my life like faster, years and years. But like I said, everything happens for a reason, and that's my path that I had to walk to. But if you listen to it now, you say like, okay, I'm not sure. Just do it. You never know if you're gonna wake up the next day. So do it now.
Fantastic. And thanks for that, Vincent, because yes, there's no tomorrow,
Yeah,
because the days and months will become years and decades. And I found
yeah,
myself releasing 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old traumas and patterns that have been controlling people's lives. And they
yeah,
fell into sleep again and again and again.
yeah.
And there is no way to change the past, really, when
No,
the time is gone. So thank you very much for your time. I really enjoyed this. And of
yeah,
course,
me too.
all the details will be under the video. Follow Vincent because he is going to show you a way to change, especially if you're dealing with addictions. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure having this conversation, and thank you so much for having me.